Shrines were one of the things in Breath of the Wild that were pretty much universally praised. The weapon durability was divisive, the divine beasts were divisive, heck, even the music was divisive. But the shrines weren't divisive. Well, okay. They kind of were, but that's mainly due to their theming. The TOTK theme being present in every single dungeon and mini-dungeon in Breath of the Wild had a lot of people burnt out on the whole idea of shrines in my opinion, but I'm of the opinion that the shrines offered the greatest puzzles in the entire game. If they were sewn together into one big themed dungeon, I don't think people would mind at all, but that's beside the point. The point is, we were given an extensive look at some gameplay of Tears of the Kingdom yesterday, and I thought the entire showcase was just fantastic, showing off all the stuff that I personally wanted to see apart from dungeons and some other smaller bits, but my excitement for the game went from a level and jumped to an entirely different planet. While the gameplay didn't show off too much brand new stuff that we've never seen, it did confirm a lot of the stuff that we were adamant on being in the game and showed them off to a great extent. But I don't want to cover any of the stuff that I know a lot of people are probably going to cover for the next few weeks. I wanted to show you what I truly believe could be the shrine equivalent that we've been waiting to see. There seems to have always been this idea that shrines were such a good and fun part of Breath of the Wild that it just makes sense to bring them back in some way and have them be more thematically appropriate to each and every area in the game, which is why Tears of the Kingdom having shrine equivalents is even an idea in the first place. Otherwise, why would we keep bringing it up? It could definitely be a one and done type of thing. I believe that this image right here actually confirms mini dungeons or shrine equivalents are going to be in the game, and I can wager a guess at what everything around it means and throw some speculation in there for good measure, as I love to do. Please subscribe for more content every single Sunday, at the very least, as we're now in the home stretch of Tears of the Kingdom's launch. But first, before we talk about that image, I think we should talk about some other potential shrine equivalents that were shown in the gameplay, because there are a few little things that hint at other locations being way more shrine-like. As an example, what about the warp points that are literally taken directly from Breath of the Wild and changed up a little? Bro literally said, yeah sure, you can copy my homework, just make sure you change it up just a little bit. These warp points seem to be around where the green spiral statues are standing, which makes a lot of sense to me. And now more than ever, I can say that I am buying into Zelda's theory around the Sky Islands. I am in the camp that believes that these statues are used to summon or bring the Sky Islands closer to the ground, and there's likely two sets of statues for each of the islands too. So for this one, for example, this is a set of Sky Islands that has already been summoned, so it makes sense that this statue next to Dueling Peaks is just used as a quick way to get to that area in the overworld. Maybe that's too simple after what we've seen. I'm not entirely sure, if I'm honest. I feel like I should at least bring up the fact that the background of the map seems to still be that same Sheikah blue, which implies... what? I think it implies that Sheikah Tech is still the baseline for technology in the world at this point. Why does he need to fill the map in all over again on the floor? Honestly, I can't make a good lore guess on that one with the info that we have. Going back to the potential shrine equivalents or mini dungeons though, I just can't see it being them. We've seen the statues all around the map, and we've kind of seen the inside of them, and it just seems to hold like a flame or a piece of energy, or something of that nature. So if they aren't used to summon the Sky Islands, there's only one other thing I could see them being used for personally at this point in time as a mini dungeon. They'd be used to send you underground. But we see later on in the trailer that the icon for caves is this one, not the warp spots for sure. So the only other thing I could see is if this teleports us to one of those open areas we saw in the February trailer. Underground, but it looks open, or at least it looks underground. But I feel like I'm reaching by saying that. So there's just a few reasons why I believe they're not the shrine equivalents, though with more time I could probably speak for more reasons for and against these being the mini dungeons. Since today we're mainly talking about these icons on the map and what they mean, I also think there's a new icon that we've never seen before, that is this one. It's hard to make out when it's really close up, as I found out on Twitter, but when looking at it from a very normal amount of zoom, I personally think that this looks eerily similar to a battery, and since we see batteries in use over the course of the trailer, I think we can say that this isn't anything to do with the shrine equivalents at the very least, especially since they have that brown background that are only seen on icons that show places that function as a service for the player, places like shops, hotels, or inns, and other service-based locations in Breath of the Wild's world. I think there's going to be a way to give wheels or fans a larger amount of battery life, or these will just be used to recharge their battery in some way, but that's a topic for another day. I'm just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And now we come back to what I actually think will be the shrine equivalent in Tears of the Kingdom. After much speculation and a long wait to actually see some amount of caving in action, we finally got to see some cave gameplay. Kinda. but not really. Aonuma kinda dips into a little cave for a few seconds to show us one of Link's new abilities, namely Ascend, but these few frames that we see Link in a cave in are dwarfed by one thing in particular. Those icons. We can see that the icons that look like caves are caves, go figure. And a little earlier on in the trailer, we see caves that have check marks next to them. And believe it or not, and as stupid as it sounds, these check marks are my biggest piece of evidence for the caves being treated like shrines in at least some discernible way in the next game. When you complete a shrine in Breath of the Wild, its icon isn't checked off in any way. It just becomes more blue as opposed to blue and orange. But you know what the shrines in Breath of the Wild had? They also had Sheikah chests. Chests used to store pieces of equipment, ammo, weapons, or even more miscellaneous bits, and when you collected the chests in those shrines, there was a checkmark type of system. If a chest was next to the name of the shrine, you'd been to that shrine and looted all of its chests, just to keep tabs on which shrines you may have been given items from and which shrines you might have missed, so you could go back for the climbing set or other random bits. Well, that's one reason why I think they're going to be treated like the mini dungeon or shrine equivalents, but let me make this very clear. I don't think they're going to be like the shrines in any real way whatsoever. I call them shrine equivalents because it's like a little mini dungeon at the end of the day. That's all shrines are, it's all caves might be. Though there seems to be a lot of caves in this gameplay, so maybe that's just their way of making up for how large some of those caves are, or how small some of them are. I imagine some of the caves are going to have enemy hordes that you have to defeat to get to a chest, or you might have to finish up a puzzle before you can get to the chest. Or, as an example, Link fighting the Stone Talus in the February trailer for the game. That might give us a chest. Either that or traversing to get to a chest in the first place is the fun behind going into a cave and finding one. I can't imagine there's not a reason to include this checkmark in the first place, because that just wouldn't make any amount of sense to me, especially since they didn't have those chests very easily visible on Breath of the Wild's map. Even if it checks off after you've walked into it and come back out of it, why? Unless there's chests in these caves or something that we can collect, I don't see a reason for a checkmark, which leads me into what might be found in these very small mini dungeon equivalents. Honestly, there are a lot of ways that I could see this going. You've probably realised I've been talking about chests a whole lot, and that's because I could see them going that way. If there are a lot of caves, like there seems to be, then it would make sense to load them up with chests that give you items that are useful sometimes, or maybe for the way bigger caves they'd give you a brand new spirit orb equivalent. So far, we haven't seen anything that can rival the spirit orbs. We have absolutely no clue how we'll be getting heart containers, stamina vessels, or whatever else we'll be collecting throughout the world. I think I could see some of the caves housing heart container pieces and stamina vessel pieces, but I still don't think we know enough to make that call. It's very possible that these caves are not the shrine equivalent areas in Tears of the Kingdom, but it's honestly the best piece of speculation I can come up with after being given a whole 10-minute gameplay presentation and not seeing much more. But at the end of the day, what is the equivalent to the shrines? Well, it's how we get heart pieces and stamina vessels, and while we haven't got our answer there for sure yet, I think we've got a decent hint now at what the areas that are treated like shrines are going to look like, and I wholeheartedly believe that they're going to be in the form of caves. But what do you think? Do you think caves will be the shrine or mini dungeon equivalent? Or do you think there's something else that stands out to you as a shrine equivalent? Now I'm going to stop saying equivalent because it feels like the equivalent of being equivalent to where was I going with this? Never mind. Leave your answers in the comments. Please subscribe for more weekly content in the lead up to Tears of the Kingdom's release, and you'll join the 22% of people who are watching that are subscribed. Plus, like the video if you enjoyed it, it helps me a ton, especially now. Thank you to all of my amazing Patreon supporters and members, with an extra special thank you to Sumji and Jared Whedon as usual. Truly wouldn't be able to do this without you. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on Sunday.